Hi gang, you've got Jake here from Ghostly Activities, and today is the second episode of my interview with Ross Allison. On this show, we'll talk about the TV media deals, TV shows like Ghost Adventures, Kindred Spirits, Ghost Nation. We'll also talk about the different university speaker series that a ghost hunter can be invited to, and then finishing off with the paranormal conferences, where you can make some cash giving a class or speaking about a ghost hunting subject. So with that, let's start with Ross. So Ross, let's move over and talk about media production and your journey within the television world. Without getting into, ghosty shows themselves, because, that's a whole other podcast.
Are you sure? We could go on for hours on that one.
Yeah, true. Very true. But a lot of people think just because you're on TV, you're a successful ghost hunter. We'll spoil it. That's a lie.
Oh, and I want to give you kudos to that one, because that's one of the things that I respect you the most is like, you're right. People think that, if you got a television show that you're an expert in this field. And one of the things that, you do and you publish is like, you'll look these people up and say, who the hell is this person?
Mm-hmm.
And you even talk about, some of their background and you find that a lot of them have no background whatsoever in the paranormal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think because a lot of people will be like, if I can just get my ghost hunting team a TV series, that's like trying to bottle lightning. Mm-hmm. And it's a very long process to do it. But as we talked about earlier, just by being, and I'll call these, when you're on TV, let's be real, you're a media personality. Mm-hmm. And with that, you come with an audience built in. Now, I will say on the shows, they're usually very good about having part of the team is very experienced and well-versed in ghost hunting. Not necessarily the entire team, because remember, it's entertainment and you need a narrative. So taking someone on the journey of, I just fell into this and now look, I'm a legit ghost hunter. I would say the most recent is Mustafa from Ghost Hunters on A&E. He was a BuzzFeed journalist who had no experience with ghost hunting. And now he's about to launch a book with Brandon on the series, who was the tech guy, who does have a very deep background in ghost hunting.
Yeah, I've worked with Brandon.
Yeah. So, that kind of narrative is more so for the audience. But for you as a ghost hunter, let's get real about TV media production and even an audio production in that regard.
I've been doing this, like I said, close to 30 years, and I have been approached numerous times to be on television shows. I've been featured on quite a few. I've been on all the major ones. But it's a thing that, one of the things I do want to point out too, is I know a lot of people, get into this for the wrong reasons, because they think, like you said, if I can get a television show, I'm set for life. One of the things you have to consider, you don't get paid a lot of money for being on reality TV. I've known people that have been on shows, for, 2 seasons, and they basically made from $500 an episode to $1,000 an episode. Can't really make a living off of that. I've done a lot of the shows and I didn't get paid anything. For me, sometimes you do these shows just for the exposure, as you're trying to get your name out there. So there's been a ton of these shows that I didn't get paid nothing to be on the show. But there's, as I said, I've been approached quite a few times to be on shows, to have my own show, and I've turned them down just because the concept of the show was ridiculous. The people wanted, the production company was ridiculous as well. So you really do, if you're very serious about this, one of the things that you really have to look out for is protecting your credibility, because a show, media alone can make you and break you. They can make you look really good. They can make you look like an idiot. I had a newspaper article that did a story on me, God, back in the day, was about 20 years ago. and basically referred to me as a member of a boy band than a ghost hunter.
I can't. Wow, I can't say I ever heard that. I'm gonna have to go look that one up.
Yes, it's out there, and so and that's back when I used to dye my hair blonde, So
Oh dear.
oh yeah. But anyways, yeah. So media can be your friend, and it could be your worst enemy. So you have to be very careful about that. So I've always, as we learn now, media plays a big part in ghost hunting, a huge part. Ghost hunting wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for the media. So it's been its pluses and it's been its minuses as well, because now, when I started my group, we were 1 out of 100 groups nationally. Now today, it's easily each state could have over 100 groups. That it's made the field very competitive because of media. But again, there is this false reality, because when people have to realize reality TV is not really reality TV. I've learned this from being on tons of shows. They'll like something that you'll say and they'll say, oh, that's great. Can we redo that? But can you do it this way? So that's not reality TV. I've been cut from shows because I will not lie about my experiences, or make up stories. I remember one show wanted me to say that I'll tell the audience that you're so scared that you'll never come back here again. And being a well-known ghost hunter, I'm not going to go on national television and say, ooh, I'm too scared to come here. Ooh, get me out of here. Again, that would affect my credibility as a ghost hunter. So I refused to do it. And so guess what? I got cut from the episode. So it's a tough one. It really is when it comes to the media aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you have to understand too, even, outside the television revenue, as you brought up, the audio as well with, blogs, and even vlogs as well. It is a tough market because it is so competitive. You really have to work your ass off in marketing yourself. It's just like publishing your own book. It all comes down to marketing yourself. And you get a lot of those people, even outside the paranormal field, where they're constantly working day after day to build their audience, because it's more important about, bringing in the followers, bringing in the subscribers, and bringing in the material, that it can be a very stressful job, especially in the very beginning when you're not making a lot of money doing it, or even in most cases, you're not making any money. You don't make money until you're able to get the subscribers and you get the companies that are willing to pay you money to advertise for them.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is you have to come with a built-in audience.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have to start from nowhere to get somewhere. And even with the online media, it's becoming more and more competitive, that they've even made that harder for people to build their audience. Even with YouTube, they filter it to the point where it's harder for your content to get out there to an audience. You have to, I don't know how it works. You would understand a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the organic reach of it, because you don't have the money to spend on advertising. This is one of the reasons why I actually got rid of my Facebook Ghostly Activities page, because I did spend some cash to build up followers, because, you want your content seen by everyone. But what Facebook does is, just because you spent money to get followers and likes, when you publish something, you're lucky to reach 10% of those people, because Facebook's policy is, well, if you're a personality or a business, you're not really someone truly connected to that person. So you have to spend money to maintain your relationship with the people that now follow you.
And see, that's not fair. It really isn't, because they're filtering people the opportunity to get their name out there. Because basically, it's the classic statement: it takes money to make money.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times you have to think, especially with media, it's almost like you're constantly doing a PR campaign.
Right.
And you have to think about each, channel of media. If it's going to be like a YouTube or social media, or you're going to do a blog and a website, you're going to write books or something, you have to have multiple channels to stay in touch with your audience. And it's still tough to break through. I will say search is probably still the best way to do it, a search engine. But even that is getting radically changed.
And it's always changing too. You're in the industry that always changes from year to year. So even when you think you're on top of it, next year it could change and you're back at the bottom.
Yep.
So it is a constant struggle to maintain that. And that's been my biggest downfall is I'm not the kind of person that's constantly out there marketing myself. I could be a lot further in this, career if I had been that personality, whoring myself around, I guess, as you could put it. But in all honesty, that's basically what you kind of have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's like any celebrity type thing. In order for you to make your living, the product is you.
Right.
And you always have to keep it fresh and keep engaging. And, it's tough, especially if you got a day job. You got kids.
It is. One of the things also people have to understand that your audience can be very fickle as well. Somebody younger, cuter, will come along and take your audience away.
Yeah.
So that's, again, you're constantly, having to rework yourself and change, things just to maintain an audience. And that's why, a lot of these shows tend to love the drama, because people love drama.
Yeah.
Like a bad accident, you always want to stop and look.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you really want to control that, and this goes with most everything we've been talking about, is you pretty much got to make it yourself. Because if you're the producer, you record it, you write it, you edit it, and then you can control it better. I mean, in a way, it can harm you, especially if you really want to be on a TV show. But you know what? There's things like Haunt Me on YouTube. It is a web series. And they make cash off that show. They film it just like a ghost hunting show, and it's better than half the ghost hunting shows out there. And it's made for YouTube. So that's another angle you could look into as well, is film it and release it yourself on your channel of choosing.
Well, I think it's definitely a good way to maintain your credibility. Because credibility is so important, but we also know there's a lot of people that'll sell their soul just to get their 15 minutes of fame.
True.
But for me, I'm not that person. I focus so hard on maintaining my credibility, my group's credibility, because it is hard to maintain that credibility when you're under the pressure of, so many other people are able to be more successful because they're willing to lie. They're willing to manipulate the situation to make the audience happy. And, some people say that may be my downfall, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to be number one. I'm not looking to be the, number one ghost hunter or the bestseller author or, I was not looking to have my own television show. To have a television show, even when I started this group, was not even something that you could even conceive. So, it was never my personal goal to be number one. It was always been to do the research. And then it basically went from there to publish the research. So,
but we can also look at the benefits of the TV show. You've got an audience for a lot of the other products that you might be media products you come out with. And that's from the books to your own podcast to getting sponsorship. It opens a lot of avenues for you. It's just there's a big trade-off. And I would say if you're going to go that route, you have to say, I'm doing this to entertain people. And then there's the other side of you. That, once you get the audience, like, I'll just use this as an example. I recently read Amy Bruni's book, Life with the Afterlife. And, she's on Kindred Spirits, and she was on Ghost Hunters. But when you read her book, she exposed entirely different side to her that you don't see from the editing on the show. So, since she is a celebrity now, she has a side business, which is Strange Escapes. That's something that came out of her media career as well, where she puts up these haunted weekends, ghost hunt weekends at these fabulously haunted places. And, she made a business out of it. But, there's the TV side. I'm not slamming Amy for this. I'm actually a big fan of Amy. I think everyone knows how much I love Kindred Spirits. But it's kind of a trade-off. What you see on TV isn't necessarily what's really going on. And when I read her book, she went into her technique and how she talks about evidence, and there was more to her than you see on TV.
And so that is a big element to a lot of this is, you if you don't have control over the material, you never know how you're going to be perceived.
I mean, that's the big thing. If it's on TV, it's to attract and maintain an audience for advertisers. Right. So you ramp up the drama. We all know the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills does not exist. Even the Kardashians are not as authentic. So reality isn't totally reality. I guess if you do a hardcore documentary that you produce yourself, sure. But that's not necessarily what people pay to see. I think that's one of the big things, because with the shows, and if you land on a show, you're not in control of the narrative, and a lot of stuff is Frankenstein together. Take a clip here, sound clip there. They have editors that are very good at making something out of nothing. And a lot of times with ghost hunting, there's a whole lot of nothing. Exactly. So
how many times can we say that we've sat around in a dark basement waiting for something to happen?
Yes.
Never does.
And so but again, that's for another topic. But, if you get on a show or you're creating a vlog or YouTube channel and you're doing like these show type narratives, it's a good way to build an audience for yourself and parlay into other things. Like the conferences, you might get paid to go to a conference and speak, because believe me, when you're not known, like you pay for yourself at the hotel to get yourself there. You might be able to sell some books. But so Ross, let's talk about another avenue you have of making some money as a ghost hunter, and that's with your lecture series at universities. How did this all happen?
Well, again, it came about due to the fact that I had established myself. Again, I've been doing this now, lecturing close to 20 years now. And it started the fact that, ghost hunting just started becoming popular. So a agency had reached out to me, because back in the day, when you look up ghost hunting, there was only quite a few groups nationally that would show up, and we were one of them. And so they were looking for somebody who could do public speaking. Not everybody in this field can do public speaking or good public speaking. And so they just wanted somebody who was, active in the field, who knew what they were talking about. And I think that just kind of just took off from there. So I was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Right now, it is really hard to get into the field of the lecture circuit, because it is so competitive right now. Due to the fact that, a lot of these agencies are looking for somebody who is well established, and most of the people that are well established they're going to be wanting people from the television shows,
which we already talked about, may not have a deep ghost hunting or paranormal background.
Exactly. So to be honest with you, I've lost a lot of gigs to folks that have been featured on the television shows, just because, they have their regular ghost hunting show does not mean, again, that they're an expert in the field. So it's a tough field to be in, but I've been lucky enough to be one of the first in the field of lecturing when it comes to ghost hunting and going to a lot of the campuses. So yeah.
So how do you maintain with those universities, understanding that there's so many, you have personalities now, and then you have local ghost hunting, we'll say experts in quotes, because we know there are no experts.
Right.
But how do you stay in touch with these universities? Is it, you got your Rolodex, or how's it work to get invited back all the time?
Unfortunately, due to the contracts, you are not in charge of reaching out to the schools. Yeah, they can actually sue you. The agency under contract is the only people that will be the person in the contact with the schools. So again, that all comes from the agency that you're able to work with. So it's one of those that they, fish out every year to try and get you lectures. For me, I think and I know this is from the years of experience from doing this and getting feedback from those who have booked a lot of other speakers, they like the fact that the honesty, again, that I bring to the field. It's just like they get these people that come in and they tell you these, grand stories, floating heads and, being scratched and attacked and locked in rooms and, all from the ghosts. And it's just so, a lot of times they tend to be so over the top that it's hard to believe. And then I come in and I, able to share evidence that, from my experiences. And some of it can be, pretty frightening, even for myself experiencing it. And I think that level of credibility and honesty has, kept me in the field, because again, it is very competitive now, especially when you're competing against a lot of these television personalities. I've been able to maintain my appearance at a lot of schools on a yearly basis, because they just like the way I tell the stories and educate everybody.
So this is not something folks are familiar with. Can you tell us more about these agencies?
Well, there are a few. You can look them up. Usually lecture agencies. Again, I'm only being honest with you, they're really hard to get into because, I've only been in a situation where I've been asked by a few to consider re-signing with them, and I've been loyal to the one I've been with. But they're really, I'm not trying to say stuck up, but you really do have to have a name for yourself. And that's why most of these agencies only work with people that have had television series, that have written a number of books. And again, they want people that are really engaging and are really good at speaking to an audience. For me, what got me in the door was that I had Spooked in Seattle, that I had, a few books under me, and I had a well-established ghost hunting organization. I still had to audition for, to get myself in the door. So that was another thing, putting together a tape of you talking about, what you're going to talk about on these lectures. So it is a really tough one. I would suggest if you want to get into that element of lecturing, teaching is going to be your first step. You have to be very well familiar with the material, because you also have to understand with lecturing, even making an appearance or even being on shows like yours, you have to also be educated enough to tackle the questions that people will ask you. That's the biggest thing. Is I've been on shows where they've had other guests and they'll ask them a question and the so-called expert didn't know how to answer the question, or they avoid the question, and so you have to be one of those individuals that can answer the questions, any kind of questions that they may ask about the paranormal. And it is okay just to say, we don't know, because
Yeah.
it's the true fact of the paranormal. We don't have all the answers.
It's important to be authentic, people. It comes through.
It really does.
If you don't have the expertise, or you're making something up. I mean, it's a different story if you go, I haven't had that experience based on my own personal experiences with this topic. I can say this and that, but you don't have to say you know everything.
Right. So the lecture circuit is a tough one. It really is.
I had never heard this stuff before. Yeah. It sounds like it's almost like they get those motivational speakers that go around.
Right. Exactly.
It reminds me of that.
And that's exactly what it is. You'll find that the motivational speakers will be with the same agencies that'll actually have people do lectures for college students.
Wild. But I mean, there's another avenue you can go to, and that is with the paracons.
Yeah. And again, you have to have yourself, I hate to say it, established in some way, because they do, if anybody's going to come see you talk, whether it's for a lecture or even for the conferences or even for some sort of class, you got to have a bio to back up what you're talking about. Anybody could pick up a book on ghost hunting and read it and say, okay, now I'm going to give a lecture on ghost hunting. But, you really do have to have the experience to, again, go back and answer the questions that people are going to be able to ask you at the end of the lecture. So experience has a main part in a lot of this. So when it comes to lecturing at conferences, a lot of the conferences will send out a call for speakers, and they want the bios. They want to know what experiences you have. But I've been to a lot of conferences where they get somebody up on the stage and they're like, oh my God, this person is horrible. Absolutely horrible. You're falling asleep, or what the content they're bringing to the table is actually horrible as well. Mm-hmm. I know me and June could talk about this for hours on end, some of the people that we've seen speak. So even that, may even be kudos for you, because or an easier element for you to get into, because sometimes some of these conferences don't filter who they get to speak. But one of the things that I liked about the Oregon Ghost Conference is, they do send out a call for speakers, so they give everybody a fair chance. Mm-hmm. To offer yourself up to be a speaker. But again, I think it helps if you have the experience. It's really hard watching somebody speak on stage when you can tell that they are so nervous the whole time. Mm-hmm. That they're just fumbling over everything, and they can't get things to work right. So it really does help, having more of a professional element to it, to know how to handle things if your equipment doesn't work, if your slideshow's not advancing,
because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, so you really do have to be familiar with the material.
But speaking of that, but getting into the cons and stuff, but how would you be proactive about positioning yourself to get one of these? Because I mean, a lot of times if it's a class or something, it's decent cash for about an hour.
It is. It really is. Well, one of the things is you really do have to, a lot of these conferences are every year. So come in as, just, having a table. Let the people that run the conference get to know you. Sometimes, just doing a class instead of, being a main speaker, mm-hmm. Putting on a class is a great way to start as well. Sometimes you really do have to work your way up to the top and establish yourself. So it's okay to start at the bottom. And so that's, for me, I had to start at the bottom, a few times with some of these conferences, even though, I'd had books, to my belt, established investigations all over the place. For me, I still had to come in at the bottom, because again, these people who run these lecture circuits or even the conferences want to get to know you first. They want to know that you're capable of doing or what they expect.
That's true. That's true. I've done a couple of the conferences, and I think what's helped is because I've ghostly the website. I just send them links to the website, and it's like if I give a class on EMF meters, I've got a bunch of how-to videos that they can check out, which is always useful. But let's talk cash money. If you're going to give a class, is it flat fee or commission? And then also with these lectures, what you don't have to give, total dollar figures, but how does the contract, how does the payment work?
It depends. Lectures, there's a flat fee. Lectures can be very expensive as well. I've worked for agencies where they'll just pay you a flat fee to do a lecture, but you have to cover your own costs to get there, your own hotel. So a lot of times you may break even or you may not make a lot of money at all. So, be aware of that. But when it comes to a lot of the classes, there's been a lot of classes where you'll make a certain percentage off of the students that have bought the class. Or in most cases, when it comes to classes, you will get a certain percentage off of tickets sold. Lectures, most of the time, you'll get paid a flat fee. So that is the difference between the two, because the smart way is, if you're paying, somebody to do a class for you, you don't want to end up having to pay them $100 and no one signs up for the class. So you're out the $100 that you had to pay for this guy to, to do the class for you. So most classes, 99% of them will only pay you a percentage of how many, people buy tickets for your class. Lectures, they already have an audience that have paid to be at the venue. So, of course, it's easier for them to pay a flat fee for the lectures.
I'm still kind of flabbergasted that with the lecture circuit, since it's, pretty established and, you're going to legit universities and stuff, that they don't pay for your airfare and hotel is part of it.
Yeah, a lot of them don't. But it's changed actually drastically throughout the years because it has become so competitive. You gotta remember, again, like I said, I was doing this in the beginning, before there were ghost hunting lectures at colleges and universities. The thing was, I remember back in the day, they used to have limo service pick me up at the airport.
What?
Yeah, I miss those days. They used to have the limo service come pick me up at the airport, take me to my hotel, then put me up at these really nice hotels. There was some celebrity status to this. Or I should say celebrity treatment, but not so much anymore.
Oh, wow.
Because it's gotten so competitive. A lot of the schools now will, just pay a local ghost hunter to come in and they'll, pay them like, $100, couple $100 to lecture for an hour on ghosts because they get to tell about the local, lore. And so you get that will happen more often than having, them, have even for, some of the big names that have their own television shows, they've lost a lot of the lectures as well because schools are going with more local ghost hunters.
Yeah, and budgets keep getting cut and stuff like that. So I mean,
that does too.
I could totally see that. So Ross, how can folks get in contact with you, and what's next for Ghost Hunter Ross Allison?
Well, I always tell people, you can always reach me through a ghost, the Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle, Tacoma, or ghost.org. I have a page on there, and this is my email. You can reach me through there. But I have been establishing myself on Instagram and Twitter, so you can always go to Ross a Ghost and find me there to keep up with what I've been doing or what I'm doing. But also to as to what's going on with me. Due to COVID, I know we're all, going through some major changes, especially when I'm in an element that does depend on gatherings and lectures and tours. It's been a little slow for me. So for right now, I've just been working on my books. So the next book that is due to come out, which I should be done with by the beginning of this year or early this year, is Haunted Prisons with David Weatherly. So that is our next big project. Plus, we'll also have haunted historic hotels coming out early this year. So all I can do right now is just write my books and maybe get in a little bit of ghost hunting.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on Ghostly Activities. And thank you for tuning in, ghostly listeners. This has been Jake Rice and special guest Ross Allison on how to make a living as a ghost hunter. Take care.